The views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Lafayette Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Culture and Sanity podcast. We are here. Test. Good. We're here. Season 2, episode 1. February 2nd? Yeah, February 2nd, season 2, episode 1. So, welcome to the first episode of the new season. You probably have noticed by now, if you're watching this or you're paying attention to the stream at any sort or the Facebook page, that it is 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday.
Ish. It's supposed to, 9 o'clock.
Ish. 9:06 right now. But that is with good reason. So before we started season 2, we had a little meeting on how could we make the podcast better? What do we want to be doing differently? Do we want to be doing that's new? How can we reach possibly a bigger audience, maybe or a younger audience? So in that conversation, we talked about maybe the younger peoples aren't sitting at home at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night waiting for our podcast as much as we would have wanted them to. So we switched our format a bit to try and reach a larger audience, hence being here now at 9 o'clock in the morning. Perhaps those younger peoples are getting ready for their nightlives rather than being out in them. So that's why we're doing this now. So you can expect that moving forward, I suppose, indefinitely. So 9 o'clock, first and third Saturdays of every month. We're sticking with the every other week format, and you can look forward to us then. It's good to be back. I'm excited about it. We have obviously a list of things we want to talk about today. Some of those things include this new Michael Jackson documentary that has either aired or will be airing at Sundance. I don't know if Sundance already happened.
I think it already happened.
Okay.
But it's going to be on HBO once it airs to the general public.
So a new documentary about Michael Jackson that aired at Sundance and will be soon available. Some interesting things happening there. We're going to be talking about marriage. We're going to be talking about the much maligned Gillette ad, since that seems to still be a relevant topic of conversation, even though it's, I don't know, what is it, maybe a week and a half old by now, 2 weeks old. And then there's a topic about the explicit nature of shows targeted toward young audiences on Netflix. And then, of course, Batman. The obligatory insert of something maybe comic book related, because that's what we like here at the Culture and Sanity podcast. So some good things to talk about and some things to look forward to, which I suppose we'll talk about at the end of the episode. With that said, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for downloading, whatever way you're listening. And with that, let's get into it. So first up, this Michael Jackson documentary. So, as I said, there's a new doc that filmed at Sundance that's stirring up some controversy. And the long and short of why is, so there's this man. I don't remember his name. This man had a long relationship with Michael Jackson. This man claims that Michael Jackson inspired his career, inspired everything about his current life and what he wanted to do. This man was even part of the testifying in favor of Michael Jackson
for the defense
back in the mid 2000s or so. I think that's when he was for the defense of Michael Jackson, saying, nothing that's being said is true. I never had this inappropriate relationship, so on and so forth. All these different things. He testified for the defense of Michael Jackson, but has since come out with this documentary that he made, or he had a huge hand in making, basically now saying the opposite of all these things. The reason why this is all very interesting is because if you had been paying attention or educated on that at all, you would know that, Michael Jackson went through extensive amounts of investigation, multiple testimonies in favor of his defense, all these different things, and he was eventually acquitted.
Yeah,
acquitted. That's the right word. Of those, allegations and things that were charges against him. Again, there's now, I think it's like a 300-page investigative report that's now been made available through the Freedom of Information Act that the public can look into, can read for themselves on all the different things involving that investigation that the FBI has released. So it's really interesting. What's interesting is that this guy, again, like, he was completely in favor of Michael Jackson, and was saying that he would never do all this. But since then, it's been revealed that this man, like, is potentially a disgruntled, what would you call it? A disgruntled, not fan, but
I don't know, like, employee, I guess.
But not. That's the point, right?
Well, he was at different points in his music career. Robson is his name.
Robson. So this guy, like, went to the estate of Michael Jackson and wanted to, for example, take over the Vegas Act. What's the Vegas Act called?
I don't know. Here, let me read. I've got the breakdown here.
Go ahead.
I posted the article. This is what's posted on Forbes about. No, it's not a review of Leaving Neverland. It is it's like an article about the context of Leaving Neverland from the perspective of a documentarian. So, cool. Anyway, here's some of the stuff that was left out of Leaving Neverland. So, in 2011, Robson approached John Branca, co-executor of the Michael Jackson estate, about directing the new Michael Jackson Cirque du Soleil production called One. Robson admitted that he wanted the job badly, but the estate ultimately chose someone else for the position. In 2012, Robson had a nervous breakdown, triggered, he said, by an obsessive quest for success. His career, in his own words, began to, quote-unquote, crumble. That same year, in 2012, with Robson's career, finances, and marriage in peril, he began shopping a book that claimed that he was sexually abused by Michael Jackson, but no publisher would pick it up. In 2013, Robson filed a $1.5 billion civil lawsuit/creditor's claim along with James Safechuck, who also spent time with Jackson in the late 80s. Safechuck claimed he only realized he may have been abused when Robson filed his lawsuit. That lawsuit was dismissed by a probate court in 2017. In 2019, Sundance Film Festival premiered a documentary based entirely on Robson and Safechuck's allegations, and while the documentary is obviously emotionally disturbing given the content, it presents no new evidence or witnesses. The film's director, Dan Reed, acknowledged not wanting to interview other key figures because it might complicate or compromise the story that he wanted to tell.
Interesting. Another thing that was interesting that article goes on to mention, and this is not new news, but like, Michael Jackson, for example, his house was like raided unbeknownst to him without warning, because that's what a raid is.
a couple times,
a couple times, and was like scoured for anything that could be possibly related to any of those allegations, and of course nothing was found. Again, he was acquitted of all these things, but. So this is all really interesting, and again, the complete 180 in the testimony of this particular guy, and now he's taking it to the Sundance Film Festival, which is this huge thing, this huge event in culture, and hugely influential.
I'm gonna post the 300-page PDF.
Thank you, Josh. In case you're interested in reading the 300 pages.
There it is, 300 pages on Michael Jackson, done by the FBI when they raided twice over 10 years.
Just a real good read. But the interesting question, or the interesting thing, is that this just seems to be just a continuation down the path of I'd say guilty till proven innocent, but he was proven innocent, so maybe it's gone a step further now. So the question is, when did innocent become guilty no matter what? When did proven innocent become guilty no matter what? And what good is what real good is the justice system when obviously public opinion and things like this film just sort of reign supreme and have the huge influence that they do? Like, can a man or a woman, can a person take heart in the justice system, when really does that matter? Like, of course there's practical ways for that. You don't go to jail for the rest of your life. You're not labeled as this. You are labeled as this, but there's not the practical, if you will, consequences of being found guilty of whatever crime. But I mean, even in his death now, this guy's reputation is being completely dragged through the mud, and your heart sort of just goes out for obviously him, which might be a weird thing to say because he's no longer with us, but like his family, like what good is the justice system and the and all of that when the public opinion is king? What are your thoughts? I know you were saying the other night you feel like bad. Yeah. And I know that you you really like Michael Jackson.
I do like Michael Jackson.
Part of your life.
Yeah, I feel bad for him and his family. It's, there's a lot of slander that can get out there, and it's just interesting how so we're sort of in the crux right now of the Me Too movement, and there's definitely issues that need to be dealt with that should have been dealt with for a long time.
Sure.
And there's legitimate issues, right? But then there is sort of mudslinging that takes place to color people's mentality about a person who may or may not be guilty, and we have to rely on the justice system in order for us to deal with that, right? The truth is that the overwhelming perception of Michael Jackson at that time, and I remember it vividly, was that people were betrayed and that it just made sense. And I remember that it just made sense that this guy was this thing that they were accusing him of because he was so strange.
So eccentric and weird, and
he was so strange. And so there were people who wanted to, so most people were like, either it made sense that he did this, or that it was like it doesn't matter that he did it. But pretty much everybody sort of believed that he did it. The people who said that it didn't matter whether he did it were people who like wanted to give him like a excuse because he had a terrible childhood or didn't even have a childhood, like according to some of his music. But pretty much the overwhelming majority, depending on whether they liked it or not, liked him or not, just pretty much believed that he did it just because he was so strange. He was such a target. But there's no evidence. And the thing that really gets me is that unlike a lot of these cases, like, a lot of these cases are still in court, they're undecided, and there's a lot of evidence. In this case, there's no evidence. Mm-hmm. This is a man who had his life like recorded 24/7 before people were recording their lives 24/7.
It's really interesting because these are the same people that want to completely, do away with bullying and all toxic masculinity and all these different terms you see. But like, this guy is like, he was proven innocent, like, extensively, like proven innocent,
right?
And he's being bullied now,
right?
Because of like how he was and how he acted.
Well, so the first time it was in the 90s, and he settled out of court because he didn't like it, what it was doing to his reputation. He didn't like any of those things, so he settled out of court. Now, to me, that's reprehensible. First of all, that the parents would settle out of court. Mm-hmm. But then the second time he decided, so like 10 years later, he decided that he wasn't going to settle out of court and that he was going to have his day in court.
Sort of damned if you do, and damned if you don't.
Right, right.
If you settle out of court, what are the implications of that? If you take it to court, well, you've just opened it up to the world.
Right, and that's the case. The one where he took it to court. That this guy that's in this documentary testified on his behalf. Yeah. You also have to note that, I mean, we're talking about lots of people who have testified on his, or not testified, but who have stated on his behalf that nothing happened, like Macaulay Culkin or Carlton. What's his name?
Ribeiro.
Yeah, Alfonso Ribeiro.
Corey Feldman.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people who've come out, in favor of him. I remember that there was this conversation about Michael Jackson's penis.
Oh yeah,
that
someone
went on.
Saw it.
Right, but then if you go back and you look at what was actually said, it's not even there. It was like a Hail Mary thing by Tom Sneddon, and who was the defense attorney, or not the defense attorney, the prosecuting attorney, and
it had to do with a picture.
It had to do with a picture,
ink-stained picture or something.
The kid drew a picture and said that there was a mark on Michael Jackson's penis in this certain area, and there was a discoloration. Not even a discoloration in the photograph. It was just darker in that area, and so then they were claiming that was what he was representing, but nobody. It wasn't admitted. It wasn't admitted because it didn't hold up.
It was ridiculous.
The judge didn't. Yeah, the judge didn't hold it up, and it's just that sort of thing.
And that's another interesting point. You're talking about the judge. Like, the judge and jury were like known conservative judges. So like, if anyone's going to want to convict someone like this, I would think it would be a judge and jury that's, known conservative leaning or whatever. So like harsh on these types of things, I suppose.
Yeah, this is what the doctor said about it, about that particular strip search. He says, the genitalia were very oddly colored with the dark skin and light skin, and I was told later that the deposition and the photos that were taken absolutely matched what the child had described. Now, listen to the wording of that. I was told later that they matched. In other words, that doctor, he had seen Michael Jackson's genitalia, but he hadn't seen what this kid had drawn. He didn't know what the kid had drawn. Why do you think that is?
Ouch. Misstep.
Yeah, it's a reason why it wasn't admitted, because it wasn't admissible. And so this is the thing that concerns me is this kind of goes a step further than it kind of goes in the direction that we've been heading, where it's concerning both for the people who really deserve both justice. For the victims who deserve justice, mm-hmm. and then for the victimizers who deserve to be brought to justice, mm-hmm. that there's no meaning behind justice.
Yeah, you're throwing it all out.
Like, when a person,
you're wanting it, but you're also wanting to throw it out.
Right. When a person who's been acquitted and there's absolutely no evidence, and he's been thoroughly investigated by the police department for 10 years, by the district attorney's department, by the FBI. It's like he's been thoroughly investigated. His life has been documented. There have been multiple people who've come in and out of his life. And like I said, before nowadays, when we document everything in our life, all that stuff was documented. And yet he's being accused posthumously in a place where he cannot defend himself.
Yeah, it's really messed up.
That is the future.
There's a sound card that should be in there that's really depressing or something, but
I'll see if I can find it. You can move forward, but I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, no, it really is concerning, and it's interesting. Yeah, like these people that deserve. Oh, you do have that. That was just completely whatever.
It's a little bit funny for for what we're talking about, but
yeah. But it is. What was I saying? Yeah, these people that want to throw out their cases but have their cases, like, I guess they don't see the danger in the direction they're heading, but wisdom of man.
Well, and not to get into the politics side of things, but there's this big conversation going on with anti-vaxxers, and if you look at some of the comments that are made about what anti-vaxxers
We're just
should...
going to go ahead and alienate our whole audience.
I just... Whatever you believe, okay? Whatever you believe about...
Michael Jackson was innocent and anti-vaccinations.
Whatever you believe about vaccination, the crazy thing about it is some of the comments that are being made by people about how when somebody doesn't vaccinate their children, the government should be allowed to come in...
You sure you want that?
...and penalize them.
You sure you want that?
I mean, we're talking about something... We're talking about measles. Just so you know, measles is super easy to treat. The issue is when it doesn't get treated.
Or as Josh would call them.
No. I'm not going to do that. So, but in any case, some people are like commenting that they want the government to come in and punish people and like throw them in jail or even like more violent things. And what we're talking about in that case is like full government oversight. Like this is what I'm saying. Like people are fickle. They don't understand the world that they're creating.
They're super short-sighted.
Yeah, they don't understand the world that they're creating when the government can tell you what you're going to put in your body or what you're going to do with your children or so on and so forth. And that's how people are. And so we're coming into this world where the justice system doesn't even matter anymore.
You said something. It's on the same line of thinking. You said something in your sermon, I think it was last week, regarding police. You either said it or I read it. I could have swore you said it. But something to do with, like, people want police. Something like people want police until they don't want them, and then they hate them, or something like that. It was some sort of idea like that.
Yeah, something to the effect of that.
When there's an emergency, you want them, but...
Yeah.
When you're something like that.
It's something like that. You hate
It was good.
You hate them when you or you love them when you need them and you hate them otherwise. Something to that effect.
And that just the short-sighted and just
But that is the world that we're creating when we are not discriminatory. And one of the things that concerns me about this is it goes down to the perception of truth, right? Because this is a documentary. Right? You have a documentary that's being presented as truth. It's being presented as essentially a historical narrative. And it's going to sit in the history annals alongside other historical narratives for consideration as the truth of what happened. Yet it has absolutely no verification standards. All it is the emotional outcrying of somebody who is questionable at best. This is what passes for a documentary now.
I remember when that documentary Blackfish came out. It was another one of those super polarizing movies about, well, what is true, what's not true, like, and you heard both sides of the story. So like we're saying, these documentaries and at these huge festivals that are like hugely influential in culture and stuff, like. This is what the public accepts as truth without even like just a little scratching of the surface, It's really wild.
It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, it is. Which is why we don't get our truth from
public
opinion.
That's what it comes down to. Like, I know that a lot of people out there think that Christians they understand truth based upon that their understanding of truth is sort of a closed system and that it's sort of kooky, right? But that's not at all what the Scripture teaches. Like, the Scripture, first of all, gives lots of evidence to be verified, which is one of the reasons why it's the most verifiable source in history. It tells its people to verify its truth, and then it even condemns people for not being real. Like, for instance, if you have a prophet, for instance, and the prophet says something but it doesn't come true, then it says that prophet isn't from God. So you know what that does? That condemns all prophets in history. Like in the 1990s, like 1999, or even before that, I remember somebody was saying that there was a great earthquake that was coming to Portland and everybody needed to leave Portland because it was the wrath of God. So that prophet was a false prophet. That's what the Scripture says. And so that Scripture was written 2,000 years ago, applying to now, even condemning a person in this day and age who speaks an untruth based not upon necessarily what the Scripture says, but based upon like what happens in the real world. So like we have a standard of truth that's much larger, but the standard of truth now is like it's nothing.
I have a buddy, and I'm not going to say his name because it's not what we do. We were talking over text this week, and we were talking about kids, and I love this guy. He's a great guy, by all your traditional standards.
Yeah.
But he said something that was really telling. We were talking about the raising of kids and like what is healthy for kids, and the objective truths that kids need, and so on and so forth. And he, in our conversation, said, "I know you are very religious, and I am not, but I completely agree with what you're saying." So it's this. I mean, I think it's really telling of like where they are eventually led to. Like they can't make sense of so many different things, and they will eventually, based on what they know to be true,
right,
fall back on what they know to be true.
Or they won't.
Or they won't.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Yeah.
like he seems to. But yeah, like there is objective truth, and we are made in the image of God, and that will resonate with you. Whether or not you accept it is another thing.
According to Scripture, whether you accept it is where you'll be condemned.
Right. So I thought that was really telling. Anyways, let's move on. About 39.
Yeah, I just want to say in regard to the whole Michael Jackson thing, like watch out, people.
It's gonna come back on you.
Because it's another one of those Ouroboros things. You can't let this sort of thing slip through, and you can't just. People are making truth claims here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a story, it's not a mythology, it's not just rumors anymore. People are making truth claims again about a person posthumous. If they can do that, like while this person is even dead and has been acquitted, what do you think they're going to say about you?
Yep. Okay, let's hit this topic, and then we'll get into our little game.
All right.
So, topic of marriage. So, Steph and Aisha Curry. Steph Curry is, of course, I don't know if you follow basketball, he's like maybe one of the top basketball players in the world right now. He plays for the Clippers in Los Angeles. Or not the Clippers, the Golden State Warriors, my bad. And then his wife, who's like a celebrity chef, her name is Aisha Curry. She recently was giving an interview with somebody, and she was talking about her marriage because she's been married to her husband for, I don't know, it's like 8 or 9 years, which in that world, in the celebrity world is a long time. Is a long time.
Yeah.
For the record, I've been married, and I'm a young person, for 7 years, and it does feel long, and it doesn't feel long. It doesn't feel long for what I'm gearing up for, which
right.
is forever. But yeah. Anyways, in her interview, she stirred up some controversy, because everything's controversial nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But she stirred up some
especially things that are sane.
Yeah. But she said this in her interview, talking about marriage. The one thing that both of
the in-laws
shared with us, the thing that both of our parents shared with us, some through learning it the hard way, some through just making sure that they do it, is just making sure that we put each other first, even before our kids. As tough as that sounds, putting ourselves first and making sure that we make time for date nights and for each other. That's been very important, as hard as it is. She goes on to say, because when you become a parent, you want to put your kids first, and we do, but we do it second to our relationship. She's saying we do as a generality.
Right.
Because ultimately, when our relationship is good, the kids are happy and they're thriving and our family life is good. We have to put that into perspective and realize that it's not us being selfish. It's making sure we have a strong foundation.
I know.
Oh my gosh. First of all,
Yeah. I got it. It's here somewhere.
Yes. She should be applauded. What a groundbreaking suggestion she just made in this interview. Put your marriage first. Yeah, obviously that's stirred up controversy because the world, society would have you believe that your kids are the most important, above everything, above your marriage, above anything in your family, above your career, maybe. Yeah, like above
right.
God, above whatever. Like, kids are number one. And, well, that's just not true. So we applaud her for that. And obviously the question for us to answer to those, what? No, people are, how can your marriage possibly be more important than your kids? So I'll let you start and shed some light on that.
Well, I think that she answered it pretty perfectly, honestly.
The foundation.
Yeah, she called it a foundation. There we go. Let's see. She said, because ultimately when our relationship is good, the kids are happy and they're thriving and our family life is good. I mean, I think that is pretty much what it is. It does provide the foundation. Like, listen, like the relationship between a man and a woman that turns into marriage and that creates children is the foundation for society. That's the biblical model. That's just the historical model. That's how it works. And having a functioning relationship between a husband and a wife creates a number of things for the children. But the biggest thing is it creates perspective on a functioning society. How it is that people collaborate with each other, how it is that people argue with each other while at the same time still being connected to each other.
I like that point too, and I think that probably was brushed under the rug in what she was saying, because there's a bigger controversial statement. But she said that her parents demonstrated even the hard stuff.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's huge, because a kid has to grow up knowing what's real. You know,
right.
Like it's not always just, hey, everything's perfect. You know,
right,
like this
right,
weird
exactly.
50s. Like smile, like Norman Rockwell, but whatever. Like smile on your face, everything's just perfect, and you know the perfect times or whatever. It's not like it's work. The cliche of it's work is it's true. Like,
it's work, and if your children get to see you go through that, but still be committed to each other, that even if you're the type of person in that relationship that sort of has to blow off steam before you get back into it. Just seeing that you keep coming back to the relationship over and over and over again.
Yeah. The hope that's demonstrated is like huge for a kid. Like
then they learn that.
And the development, like the psychological, all of it. Like it's so important for a kid to see that, like, and see that they're safe, and you know their parents are, you know, going to be there.
Well, and let's get into the formative aspect of just relationships in general. Like, think about it. The most profound relationships that your children are going to have are with you and your spouse, right? And so they're going to learn things about their identity. For instance, they're going to learn what it is to be a man or what it is to be a woman. Yeah. But on top of that, they're going to learn how to interact with the opposite sex,
right? They say a daughter's first love is their father, and a son learns how to take care of a woman.
Exactly.
And the way he, treated his mother.
Exactly. So now let's say that you are a broken marriage for whatever reason. And there's lots of reasons. There's even ones that are sad, but biblically, let's say, not appropriate, but understandable. Like adultery, for instance. So if you're a parent that has left that relationship and your child is watching you, let's say that you're a father who's left that relationship and you've got a little boy who's watching you, then what you have done in that one act is you've opened up the doorway for your child to think that there is a quitting point to that relationship.
Right.
And that takes a huge toll on a child. It rocks their world. Absolutely. And then on top of it, then that child has to deal with that in their own relationships when they get older. You want to know why people have no hope for their marriages? Why so many children have no hope for any real relationship? Why it's all about what they can get now in the moment? Mm-hmm. Well, it's because they grew up thinking that. They grew up thinking it with the processing of what a child gets when their relationship isn't intact. It's the same reason why one of the things that Michelle and I saw in the foster system, for instance, is when you put food in front of a child, they'll eat it as fast as they can, or they'll hide that food
because they don't know when it's coming again.
That's right, because they don't know when it's coming again. It's the same thing. Like a child gets into a relationship thinking that this is how they're going to handle it. Because they've seen that relationships don't work out. And so what do? They have relationships where they can get what they want now. And so then they turn to things like, so then culture is created, like hookup culture, for instance. And there's a lot more that goes into that. There's a lot more variables that go into that. But don't think that there isn't a profound effect on children whose parents come from a broken marriage. Now, all of that can be healed. It can be healed through Christ, and made whole when we adopt the biblical narrative as opposed to the narrative that we start with. But yeah, like it's a really terrible thing. And and so this narrative, it's sort of self-informing in our culture, this narrative that children need to come first. Well, let's be clear. The reason why there's a narrative that children need to come first is because at some point there were a bunch of children who understood that they need to come first. And so then they taught that children need to come first. And then they taught that children need to come first. Why? Because we're all a bunch of children who've been rejected by broken families. So what's the one thing we can do? We can watch out for our children in the future. It's a self-informing narrative that creates a cycle, and it's not right. And we need that revelation from Scripture to come in and tell us, no, this is how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
This is relevant in a relationship I have with a friend. Like, his marriage is struggling right now, and I'm like trying to talk to him about these things, and he's at a point of hopelessness. You know, I've tried, it doesn't work, this doesn't work, blah 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 blah, and like I've witnessed interactions and stuff like via the phone and stuff, and I'm always like trying to encourage him, like, hey man, like if you need to go, like go take care of your business, you know, like like you don't have to, like we don't have to be talking right now, like please go do that, like well, this is for the kids and this is for the kids and blah blah blah. Well, like what are you teaching them, man?
Well,
what are you teaching the kids?
It's the wrong diet. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Take it from the perspective, like if you're like trying to lose weight, for instance, you know, and so you're exercising to lose weight, but you're filling yourself with carbs. It's like, what do you expect to happen in that? You're filling yourself with exactly what's going to make you fat. And that's the issue here. It's not that the effort's not being put in. And I think a lot of people are trying to put in the right effort. They really love their kids. They really want to do right by them. They don't want to see their kids go through the same thing.
But they're missing...
Their perspective's wrong. They're missing that piece. They need to shift their attention. Which is a huge
piece. It's like the crux, you know? It's like... It's the I don't say the cornerstone because I don't believe that, but it is a huge piece.
The scripture teaches that when a man and a woman join in marriage, they become one before God. So you have to take that very seriously. A child is an offshoot of that. Think of a child as the branch and the that's capable of bearing seeds and all that sort of stuff. But the tree is the man and the woman. If you separate the tree, the child dies. They could be cut off and then grafted into another tree, which is what, you know, like adoption, foster care, all that sort of stuff is. But you want to know why the branches are dying? It's because the tree's dead. So keep the tree alive.
I'm reminded of on an airplane when they tell you, put your mask on first.
Same thing.
Because you're no good to your kid if you're passed out.
Right, exactly.
You know, like,
same thing.
That's a crude example.
Same thing. And let me say, like, some people may think that that's mean. I know that that's a big thing. Some people think that that's mean. How could you tell a child
You hear it
that?
every time you're on a plane. You hear like somebody behind you.
Right.
I always do.
Right. Somebody may think that's
this.
mean. How could you tell a child that? But let me tell you, as one who's told it, 2 of my children and many more people that are my surrogate children.
Comes the bold statement.
It makes them feel safe. It makes them feel safe because they know that they're not in control. Because that's what happens, right? The onus on the relationship then becomes the relationship between the child and the one parent, or sometimes both of the parents separately. So what you're telling the child is that the relationship has to split because of that child. Now, they may not understand, or you may not understand the fullness of it because how do I say this? You may not understand the concreteness of that idea because you are a dynamic individual who's grown now. But a child is not going to see it that way. They will feel put in the middle. Read the statistics on it. This is what children feel. Children who are in broken homes, they feel put in the middle of their parents because their parents choose them over each other. And then they're like, oh, it's not about you. It's about us. But really, the child has to choose between the two. It's like,
and let me tell you, like, as someone who went through that, like, that is tough to go through, man. Like, there's one conversation in particular that I remember, like, vividly, like, where we were, where we sat, like, and we were literally, like, asked which direction we wanted to go. And that is like that's called an impossible situation.
Yeah.
As a kid. Like, there is no right answer. Both answers are also wrong. Like, and the damage is like crazy on your mind. You know?
And when you make that choice, then you're solidifying the brokenness of the relationship.
And it's really sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad. Now let's go to one.
So good on these guys. I don't know what their background is and belief.
Yeah,
but they have the right idea.
Right, totally. So we commend that. Okay, let's get into our game.
Okay.
Hit it.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game. Hello.
All right.
Sorry.
All right, Josh.
All right.
All right. We got one. Do we have two?
Hello?
Oh, I hear two.
There's one. Do we got another one in here? So far.
Oh, I can hear ourselves in there.
Do we have an L.U. Castillo of Oregon? Maybe. We have a John. John, where are you from?
I am originally from Long Beach, California.
So we have a John from a Long Beach,
is that
California.
True? Huh.
He's a military brat.
Weird.
Right? You're a military brat.
Navy baby, yep.
All right. Well, our other caller is experiencing some difficulties, which is difficult. So...
Why don't you explain the game while we try to get him?
Okay, so the game is Super Bowl. The theme of the trivia is Super Bowl ads.
Yeah.
Super Bowl ads. So it's basic trivia.
Because Super Bowl's on Sunday.
Super Bowl is tomorrow.
Or tomorrow, yeah.
Yay, if you like Super Bowl. So I saw a Facebook post that I posted 4 years ago. It's one of those memories that recirculates. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't always watch football, but when I do, I remember why I don't always watch football. Because I don't like football.
Yeah, it's like Super Bowl 53, right?
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's 53. 53 years of people bashing their heads together.
Yep.
Oh,
okay, there we go. We have contestants. Welcome. Okay, so the theme for our new joiners is Super Bowl commercials. Okay? It's basic trivia. And I got some questions here, or trivia, whatevers, and I'm just going to start rattling off. First to answer wins. This is for Season 2's first champion. Are we on the same page?
Sure.
Okay.
Got it. Yep.
So, here we go. To secure a 30-second ad during Super Bowl Sunday, you can expect to pay about this much.
John. $10 million.
Oh, $2 million.
Ooh, LU gets it because he's closest. The answer is around $5 million. 30-second ad, $5 million-ish. 1-0. 15 years has passed since this infamous moment between performers.
What is the nip slip for Janet Jackson?
What is? I appreciate your form. 1-1. 1984 was the title of this company's very massive announcement in which the product being advertised was never actually shown. Directed by Ridley Scott.
Come on, only these masters of advertising would be so bold.
I want to say like the Echo, but that's way too.
1984?
1984.
Was that no? Was
Was it some kind of cigarettes or something? Because I know they're not.
Wrong and wrong. The answer is Macintosh. It was the post-apocalyptic Android ad, hammer being thrown at the screen. Anyways, 1-1 still. This big company...
I was 1.
You were 1.
I don't remember that. In 84?
Trivia doesn't care how old you were.
I know
when,
nothing
when
about the
trivia question
1980s.
was asked. This big company...
Who was our first president, John?
Okay, so chatter down. This big company twisted MLK Jr.'s intended words to follow Jesus and instead buy their product.
Chevy
Wrong.
or GM.
Wrong. Time's up. Ram trucks. Ram trucks. 1-1 is still the score. Next up, this old Super Bowl spot became so popular that it sparked a made-for-TV movie.
What is immediately following the Super Bowl?
Wrong.
What? Is that a question still?
What was the question? What?
The question is this old Super Bowl spot became so popular that it sparked a made-for-TV movie. Time's up. The Mean Joe Green Coca-Cola spot where he's walking limp down the stairs and his little kid comes up. Mean Joe Green, have my Coca. You guys never saw that?
Nope.
Under a rock. Next up, 2 boys' jaws dropped when this supermodel stepped out of a red Lamborghini in a Pepsi ad.
Cindy Crawford?
Giselle.
Correct. Cindy Crawford. 2-1 to John. Next up, these 2 Hall of Famers competed for a Big Mac by shooting hoops. Two Hall of Famers competed for a Big Mac. Basketball.
Was it the Eli and Peyton Manning?
No, basketball, John.
That's LU.
Basketball, LU.
We're in football. Super Bowl. Come on.
It's a Super Bowl commercial.
Super Bowl commercial. Okay, time's up.
Oh,
Larry.
Michael Jordan and Larry Bird.
Okay, he sneaks it. 3-1. All right, you have the chance to tie it and nothing more, LU. Last 2. E-Trade struck gold 6 years in a row by featuring what from 2008 to...
Babies.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Talking Baby, yes. And for the final question, since its first airing, a Volkswagen ad featuring this famous movie character has been viewed on YouTube
Vader.
63 million times, making it one of the most popular Super Bowl ads ever. Darth Vader is correct. John, in the latter half of the game, takes a commanding lead and remains the reigning champion of the Culture and Sanity podcast. All right, boys.
All the accolades.
Thank you for calling in, and have a great day. So, John apparently is pretty good at random things.
I guess so.
All right, next up.
Okay.
This is a good one. Controversial, maybe. So the Gillette ad.
Yes.
Most people have seen the Gillette ad by now. You were talking earlier about being right in the midst of the Me Too movement, which is
right.
what this whole Gillette ad is. Trying to commentate on the toxic masculinity. Time's up for that. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of the accepted behaviors and standards of men, and so on and so forth. So Gillette had this huge ad, and a lot of people liked it. Some people didn't like it. The question for our purposes, maybe there's 2, is toxic masculinity now a blanket statement for just all things men? And what are the objective truths on what a man is or isn't? So kind of a big question. With that said, we again want to just throw out there, we agree that certain things, need to be exposed, and certain people have real cases, and things need to be put out there, and all this stuff. Like, we're not like strictly against that. But I think it's worth asking, given like what this commercial is showing, is this idea of toxic masculinity now just becoming a blanket statement for what being a man is. For example, this is a small example taken from the commercial. There's these two boys in the commercial, and they're wrestling and playing, and the commercial suggests that men shouldn't do that. They shouldn't wrestle and play. Now, I think it's widely accepted that boys and men are more aggressive by nature, and that's how they interact. Is that bad? Are we going to call that bad now? Are we going to call that idea of a boy doing that at a young age, are we going to call that fuel for their later behaviors? So there's some interesting questions in there. What's your first take?
Well, I think you first have to define toxic masculinity. It's sort of a more colloquialism of patriarchy, which, let's see.
So how is toxic masculinity defined?
So it refers to the socially constructed attitudes that describe the masculine gender role as violent, unemotional, sexually aggressive, and so forth. So here's some examples, and I posted the link to this, but I'm on Geek Feminism Wiki.
Nice. Geek Feminism Wiki.
So here's some of the things they list. The pervasive idea of male-female interactions as competition and not cooperation. The pervasive idea that men cannot truly understand women and vice versa, and following that no true companionship can be had between different sexes. The expectation that real men are strong and that showing emotion is incompatible with being strong. Anger is either framed as the exception to the rule or as not an emotion. Relatedly, the idea that a real man cannot be a victim of abuse or that talking about it is shameful. The idea that men are just like that. The expectation that real men are keenly interested in sex, want to have sex, and are ready to have sex most, if not at all times. The idea that real men should be prepared to be violent even when it is not called for. The idea that men would be ready to abandon, their pregnant girlfriend, or be incapable or unwilling to take responsibility, that they feel little or no attachment to unborn children. The myth that men are not interested in parenting and are inherently unsuited to be single parents. The idea that there's a range of feminine interests and activities a real man would not hold, and that disprove a man's masculinity regardless of his other actions. So when I read that list of what toxic masculinity is, I would have to agree with that. I think it's all the other things that are conscripted into it where it becomes difficult. I would have to agree with this list when it comes down to what it focuses on, as opposed to it as a general whole. Let's see, how do I say that? Like the expectation that real men are strong and that showing emotion is incompatible with being strong. Real men are strong. The issue is that showing emotion is incompatible with being strong.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. So then we take this concept, so then we throw away strong in order to keep emotion. That's what I take an issue with.
Yeah. I
do agree with the idea that emotion is strength, generally. Mm-hmm. Let's see, here's one. The idea that real men are interested in sex, want to have sex, and are ready to have sex, if not at all, most times. Yeah, that's true.
Where does it...
And for the record, it's not real men, it's just men.
There's a reason why we have the output.
Yeah. See, I think the issue here has to do with, and this is a larger issue that we're always dealing with. The issue here has to do with the teleological nature of man's biology.
Go ahead and unpack that.
Okay, so teleological, like think telescope, right? Like, yeah, he wants to ding me like in cross examination. Which, by the way, there's a new one online.
In time.
But anyway, it has to do with the teleological nature of man, and specifically of our physical bodies, right? So teleological, think telescope, like outward, like forecasting out the meaning of something. What is the forecasted out idea behind these things? So the body has something that it purveys, right? And so, like what Adam just said, we have the what do you call
output.
it? The output. We have the penis.
I was being...
Yeah, I know, but we already said it because of Michael Jackson, so might as well use it more in a clinical sense here.
No pun intended.
Right. So in any case, the other thing that we have that's really not factored in this is testosterone.
Yeah.
We have a large amount of testosterone compared to women. I'll try and pull up the facts here in a little bit, but it's that sort of thing that makes us naturally, so when I say that, what I mean is not philosophically naturally, but biologically more
so
aggressive.
So what does toxic masculinity suggest about testosterone? It doesn't, right?
Well, it does.
It suggests broken?
It suggests that either it's broken or that it is like not a real thing.
So all men, according to the notion of toxic masculinity, are biologically broken.
Yeah, I guess so.
Now what? Now what? Then what? Okay, so we'll take that. We're biologically broken. Now what is the suggested solution to that?
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Sex, gender, testosterone.
Estrogen. We all become transgender.
Well, you can't become transgender.
Oh.
Let's see.
How dare I?
Let me see here. Sorry, I'm looking for the difference here.
Yeah. Yeah. On a like a.
Oh, I have it.
Okay.
Okay. So for normal ranges for testosterone partially depend on the lab and your doctor's interpretation, but with that said, here's some general values. For a 19-year-old male, testosterone total should be between 240 to 950 NGs or DLs or whatever that means. And free testosterone should be 9 to 30. In a 19-year-old female, so for 19-year-old male, 240 to 950. In a 19-year-old female, testosterone should be between, take a guess.
5 and 6. I don't know.
8 and 60. 8 and 60 versus 240 and 950.
Jeez.
What does testosterone do, people? It increases sex drive. Aggression. It increases pain tolerance, building of muscle mass, learning and memory, specifically in spatial reasoning. Like these are things. These are things that are associated with toxic masculinity. Now, should they be associated with masculinity? Yeah, that's our biology, right? You can't get. You can inhibit the biology by taking blockers and then trying to increase your estrogen and all that sort of stuff. But that's what you're biologically intended to do. Calling it toxic isn't really respecting the biology. Not that we care to respect the biology in this day and age. But yeah, it's not really respecting the biology. Now, for me, the toxicity comes in focusing it.
Right. Yeah, no, like... And it's
I
just
just
funny
posted the
because
article.
even an unbelieving person would say that their worldview is shaped by science and reason, right? That's probably the most popular thing you hear. Well, the science is biologically we are prone to those different things because of our biology. Like, we are prone to more, like, all these different things. Yes, the issue becomes the focus of those things, but your science, for your worldview that is rooted in science, accepts that, you know? So
Yeah.
it's just...
Well, it accepts it as a fact. So we are, and this is the, yeah, again, it's the inappropriateness of the culture, but Adam sort of alluded to it earlier. It's like, if we're not allowed to be that because it's broken in us, and women are the standard, which, by the way, is ridiculous too. Why is there no toxic femininity? Whatever. And women are the standard, then what are we left with? We're left with emasculating ourselves or demasculating ourselves.
And do you know what happens then? We become extinct.
Right.
Like, we die.
When we don't have men.
Have fun with your toxic, you've done away with your toxic masculinity when we're all gone.
Right.
Like, you too. You're dead.
Right. And fortunately, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, there is a masculinity which is toxic, and it's always going to be the case. Just like there's a Christianity which is toxic also, right? There is a sexuality which is toxic. It's the language that we use is the problem. Toxic masculinity has now become synonymous in culture with just masculinity.
Yeah, it's a blanket. That's why it's a blanket statement turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's this narrative that people want to.
And little boys wrestling each other, like, that's how we learn to be men. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, that's toxic masculinity to be men. No, when I mean men, I mean in the biological sense. Like, we need to work out our biology on each other, and that's what we're supposed to do as human beings, and that means that men need to be biologically active, working out their testosterone with other men.
I was listening to a podcast,
and with women, being sexual and stuff like that.
And these two guys were talking about their best friends to this day, like in their early stages of their relationship. They got into, like, and this is just anecdotal or whatever, but they got into. In the early stages of their relationship, they fought, they had a fight. There was a single fight, but after that, they're brothers to this day.
Right.
It's just a really interesting.
Well, that's the
thing.
cliche, right? That women are catty, and men, they get into a fight and they knock each other around, and then they're best friends.
Yep, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say something else as well, but
yeah, it's not. We shouldn't be in a place where we can't say what we are. But this is where we find ourselves in the world. We can't say that we are men because that is machismo, and what does that even mean? I really love that simple commentary in the Far From Home trailer where he goes, "You look really pretty," and she's like, "And because of that, I have value to you."
Oh yeah. The Spider-Man trailer.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it because it's true. And she was joking in the trailer, but it's a joke because it is a real thing.
That's people. That's where they're at in their headspace. You can't even make the most innocent, genuine suggestion without being an oppressive person.
Well, or just it's just honest. And so taking the Spider-Man trailer and talking about it, that's Peter Parker's testosterone. Mm-hmm. That's his testosterone informing his brain that she is
pretty girl.
That she's pretty, and he's saying it. Who was it? William Shatner over our break. He got in trouble, or not in trouble, but he got into it with the media because of "Baby, It's Cold Outside."
Okay, I missed this. I mean, I know the song.
Yeah. So people were calling for radio stations to not play it anymore.
So what was he saying?
He was just saying a man should be able to hit on a woman. It's who we are. And people were angry with him, but the dude's 90. So he's 87, and he doesn't care.
He's at that stage of old where he's just going to say whatever.
He just doesn't, he doesn't care. He's not going to be dealing with it in 13 years like the rest of us. Only his digital ghost will be.
Right.
You guys know about that? Wait, I think maybe we talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different artists,
Yeah.
reappearing in digital form with completely original content.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
I want no part of that.
Yep. Well, Shatner does.
Yeah, there's something refreshing honesty that a kid and an old person have.
Right.
They just the kid doesn't know, and the old person doesn't care. And so they are 100% honest.
Yep.
Love it. Well, we're going to talk about Batman. Should we talk about Batman or should we wrap it up? It could be quick. It could be quick. Okay. We'll make it quick.
Okay.
Just real quick.
Sure.
So there was a Batman article that you posted. I don't know if you posted it to the other guys, but it had to do with Batman Metal, which is a new series.
Yes.
With
Fairly
Batman.
new.
So this Batman Metal, this character, this alternate version of Batman comes from a different universe, and in his universe, he was infected by Joker toxin.
Right. He has a different continuity, an all parallel universe.
Parallel universe. So he's basically an insane Batman. He has like the insane sociopathic tendencies as a Joker, but like the mind also of Batman. So he's like, it's this interesting thing. So what happens, there's this whole event in the DC universe where he eventually ends up in the main line. I don't know what they would call the main line of
the main continuity.
The main continuity. And his mission now in his new series is to convince the real Batman that he is the worst Batman of all because of reasons, right?
Right.
Because he's a Batman that never defeats the evil. The evil always comes back because that's what has to happen in comics, right?
Right. So the main Batman, the Batman that we know that's in the comics, Bruce Wayne, is, according to this Joker version of Batman, the worst Batman. What he means by that is the least effective Batman.
The villains of Arkham always get out. Two-Face always escapes. Joker's never caught. Whatever it may be.
Right.
And obviously that has to be that way in comics, otherwise we don't have anything cool to read, right? So of course it's the comic dilemma. All the superheroes suck then. But
sure.
So anyways, this guy comes to the universe to convince Batman of that because of those reasons. He's the least effective, because he'll never break his moral code. He'll never like cross his line of killing or of doing something with finality.
Yeah.
In order to keep his moral code or whatever. And so that's the angle that this, insane Batman, this Joker Batman takes in trying to convince them. And then a question is posted at the end of this article. How did the question?
It was less a question and more of a statement, honestly.
Suggestion.
Yeah, it was a suggestion that basically allowing ourselves to be our worst self, to drop our moral standards.
By relaxing our standards and rules, can we be better versions of ourselves? If Batman were to relax his standards and rules for morality and all these things, could he be a more effective Batman? Which is really a sinister, sinister idea.
It's really jacked up.
This article is on Screen Rant. But yeah, no. Just to put it simply, no, don't do that.
No, I mean, what we see when we do that is exactly what we have in society, things falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that makes Batman great. And it's one of the things that shows that this, just from a fanboy standpoint, the writer of this article doesn't understand Batman very well. Because there's no way that the Batman who laughs, which is what they call the Joker version, is going to take over the continuity of the main Batman. No, he's going to have to overcome that thought. It is what we call a intrusive thought, mm-hmm. and a destructively intrusive thought. So, I mean, we don't want to keep the show going for too long, but long and short of it, no, that's a dumb idea.
Don't do that. What's the line in Dark Knight? Like the joke?
You either live long enough to... That's the one you're thinking of?
There's that one. You either die a hero or live long enough to become a villain. But there's also the Joker also says something. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object?
Yeah.
Just alluding to like the Batman won't compromise who he is in order to do something. And yeah, whatever. It's a great movie. We should watch that movie.
Speaking of which,
speaking of watching old movies. Okay, so we're done with the show, but there's some things you can look forward to here in season 2. One of those things is we are talking about making a reality in which we're going to do, what do we call it? Retro reviews.
Yes.
Retro reviews. So our thought is, and you can look forward to this and look forward to our Facebook page and, information about this in next episode, obviously, as well, but a sort of Fathom event style thing. They call it a virtual living room. So if you're not familiar with the term virtual living room, the long and short of it is it's streaming something that you and someone else's other people
Right.
are watching like live together, though you're not in the same space.
Spot, yeah.
So someone in Africa can be watching the same thing with the person in Canada.
Right.
A virtual
so the
living
video
room.
is synced up, and there's like audio or sometimes video available, and there's a chat room open so
Yep.
that you guys can talk
about
while
it.
things are going.
We're going to be doing these retro reviews of taking these really big movies, probably movies. We'll stick with movies for now. Generation-defining movies, things like Star Wars, Matrix, things like this, and we're going to be talking about it from our, Christian perspective. And it's going to be something that you, in theory, can be a part of live and like talking with us or being there as we review it and talk about, what's true, all these things. True, it's not true, what's good, bad, all of it.
What is secretly being said?
Yes, the subliminal messaging or overt messaging,
Right.
in some cases. So that's really exciting, and we're looking forward to that. We're testing out some different services for that, so look forward to that. We're probably going to be hosting that here at our church, but
So people could come and join us while it's active,
like live in person. But the beauty of it is you can be a part of it while not being a part of it, here in person. So look forward to that. If you're interested in the topics of the day, I believe Josh posted them to our live stream here.
Yep.
So they're in the comments section. Check those out. Again, look toward our Facebook page for things we got going on at Culture and Sanity. If you have something that you're personally interested in, although it's never happened, you can feel free to direct message us those things or comment on our page, and we'll be happy to talk about it from our point of view. If you're interested in exploring your faith or are completely new to Christ, you can check out the Help tab on abfpdx.org. There's some things we got going on. We just had our most recent cross-examination panel discussion last Sunday.
Yeah.
Last Sunday, the topic was women pastors. So that's interesting. If you're interested in that, you can find it on the cross-examination Facebook page.
And we had a little bit of an issue during the live stream, but don't worry, guys, because we recorded a hard copy, if you will, that doesn't have the same stuttering issues that we had during the live stream because the internet just didn't work out. So we posted that instead. So don't worry, you can watch it.
Right. Women pastors was the topic. This year, it's taking an every other month format for cross-examination. So March's panel discussion will be on church racism. That'll be on the last Sunday of the month at 7 p.m., so you can look forward to that. We have another podcast called The Abandoned Initiative. That will be on the 17th of February. At time. I don't remember the time. You can look toward the Abandoned Initiative Facebook page. I'm sure you can find it on any one of our sister pages as well. Culture and Sanity, ABF or Aletheia Bible Fellowship Facebook page, Truth Time with Pastor Monty, all these different sister programs we have going on. You can find, I'm sure, the stream on that, but look forward to that. This is a ministry geared toward reaching younger Christian people and really grounding them in what it is that they believe so that they don't go away from the church.
The AI, the Abandoned Initiative.
Abandoned Initiative. Obviously, I just alluded to it, but we have our other podcast, Truth Time with Pastor Monty. That's Wednesdays at 11 a.m., so you can look forward to that. So we got a lot going on. Speaking of which, Truth Times with Pastor Monty, 11 a.m. From episode 2 onward, we are going to have a third guest in our Culture and Sanity podcast, the Elder Emeritus Monty, who is the host of Truth Time with Pastor Monty.
The Reverend Professor, former agent.
Lyft executive, former bus driver, agent of the IRS, all of the man of many hats. He will be in a part of our podcast moving forward. He expressed some interest in that, and he will be able to offer his take and his wealth of experience regarding these different things that are going on in our culture. So you can look forward to that. And again, we are on an every other or first and third Saturday format at 9 a.m. So new format, reaching more people, hopefully. So with all of that said, thank you for tuning in to Season 2, Episode 1, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
The views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Aletheia Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.